Andrew Gillum and Ron DeSantis faced off in their second debate, and I pulled a clip that I wanted to share with you guys because it really proves beyond a shadow of a doubt that Andrew Gillum is undoubtedly one of the most skilled debaters in the country. And the beauty about this particular clip in question that I'm about to show you is that when it comes to the question of Ron DeSantis's racial intolerance, Andrew Gillum didn't even really have to say very much to just completely obliterate Ron, but he made a really quick, concise point, and it left Ron DeSantis in a position to where he couldn't possibly recover from that. So take a look, and then I'm going to give you my analysis after this clip.
On live TV in August, on the first day of the general election campaign, you said of Andrew Gillum's run for governor, quote, "The last thing we need to do is to monkey this up by embracing a socialist agenda." Fox News quickly disavowed your words, saying, quote, "They do not condone the language." Now, you called some of this response absurd. You've made appearances at 4 of David Horowitz's Freedom Center events. Again, 4 separate times, 4 speeches. Among some of Mr. Horowitz's statements, quoting here, "This country's only serious race war is against whites." You know, I'll ask the questions. Okay. It's not a McCarthy game, and I'm giving it. Wait for the question,
okay.
sir.
Okay.
He also said, "If blacks are oppressed in America, why isn't there a black exodus?" Now, in 2015, in your speech before the Freedom Center, you said of Mr. Horowitz, "David has done such a great work, and I've been an admirer. I've been to these conferences in the past, and I've been a big admirer of an organization that shoots straight, tells the American people the truth, and is standing up for the right thing." Those are his words. Here's my question.
He had not even made those statements then.
Yes, he had, sir. The first statement was made many years ago.
I mean, how the hell am I
2003.
supposed to know every single statement somebody makes? Here's the deal. Let me just say this straight up. I've lived my life, whether it's athletics, whether it's military, whether it's serving as a prosecutor. When I was downrange in Iraq, we worked together as a team regardless of race. We had the American flag on our arm. We wore the same uniform, and we fought for the country. When I was a prosecutor, I stood up for victims of every race, color, and creed. That's the only way to do it in our country. It's something I believe in, and as governor, I will represent all the people. Everyone will get a fair shake. But I am not going to bow down to the altar of political correctness. I'm going to not let the media smear me like they like to do with so many other people.
Sir,
I'm certainly not going to take
there.
anything from Andrew Gillum, who's endorsed the Dream Defenders, which says Israel is an apartheid state, and which says the police and prisons have no place in justice.
Mr. Gillum, wait for the applause and go. And Mr. DeSantis, I'll point out, I wish you would have waited for the question, because I had a question and it's not what you think it is. Mr. Gillum, I'll give you a chance to respond now.
Well, let me first say, my grandmother used to say a hit dog will holler, and it hollered through this room. Mr. DeSantis has spoken. First of all, he's got neo-Nazis helping him out in this state. He has spoken at racist conferences. He's accepted a contribution and would not return it from someone who referred to the former president of the United States as a Muslim, Nigger. When asked to return that money, he said no. He's using that money to now fund negative ads. Now, I'm not calling Mr. DeSantis a racist. I'm simply saying the racists believe he's a racist.
Mr. DeSantis, if I would ask the audience to please let Mr. DeSantis now respond.
Now, towards the end of the clip there, I don't know if you noticed, but the moderator had this smirk on his face that was kind of funny to me because you could tell he clearly couldn't contain his laughter after witnessing the utter smackdown that just happened before his very eyes. So I just thought that was kind of humorous there and wanted to share it with you. Now, I want to get to what Ron DeSantis said here, because he didn't say anything substantive at all, really, to defend himself. I mean, he only started spouting off platitudes about how him and his military buddies, they all wore the same flag on their arm, and, he represented all races as an attorney, and yada, yada, yada. You're not saying anything meaningful, Ron DeSantis. Throughout the course of this campaign, a lot of people have been hammering you for your racial intolerance, and for good reason. The day after the primaries, you said we can't, quote, monkey this thing up.
The last thing we need to do is to monkey this up by trying to embrace a socialist agenda.
That's not just dog whistle racism. I think somebody made the comment on Twitter, this is bullhorn racism because you're not really even trying to hide the fact that you are racially intolerant, at a minimum. Now, he said here, how the hell am I supposed to know every single statement somebody makes? And you could tell that he was actually emotional because he's constantly been on the defensive throughout the course of the campaign. So you could see that it's really catching up with him. It's starting to really get to him. However, if you align yourself with generally racist and shitty people, well, that level of carelessness is going to have negative consequences for your campaign. It's coming back to bite you in the ass. You didn't have to align with individuals who are racist. You didn't have to accept the donation from an individual who called Obama the N-word. You chose to do that yourself. And what is his defense? Quote, I am not going to bow down to the altar of political correctness. Well, there's a difference between being racist and being politically incorrect. There's a clear difference there. Someone calling Obama the N-word, that individual is not being politically incorrect. That person is just being openly racist. But the ironic thing here is that as Ron DeSantis rails against political correctness, he weaponizes it in that same argument in order to benefit him. So he brought up the group that Andrew Gillum is aligned with and said, oh, well, they claimed that Israel is an apartheid state. Well, clearly, to point that out, you're showing that you are also opposed to political incorrectness because them saying that clearly offends you. But the implication and the reason why Ron DeSantis brought that up is because, well, he's trying to say, see, they are actually anti-Semitic and Andrew Gillum is aligning with them. So if he can align with anti-Semitic organizations like that, then why can't I align with racists? There must be this double standard. No, there's no double standard. That's very different. So understand, he's trying to have it both ways. He's railing against political correctness, but then saying, look at this group, they said something that's politically incorrect. That's offensive. Now, in his mind, he's calling out the double standard, but in actuality, he's being a hypocrite because those are two very different things. Again, when you look at the facts, the Israeli government is doing what is tantamount to apartheid. So you may not like that detail, people may not like hearing that, but that doesn't make it inherently anti-Semitic. It's a critique of government, not the Jewish people. And the individuals that you align with were not criticizing Obama based on substance or policies. The donor whose money you took and refused to return called Obama a Muslim N-word. So he knows that he's guilty, and that's exactly why he got so emotional, because he doesn't know how the hell to get himself out of this pickle that he put himself into. But Andrew Gillum capitalized on that emotion that he saw and had the perfect response. It was the moment that I think probably went the most viral throughout the course of the debate. He said, quote, my grandmother used to say, a hit dog will holler, and it's hollered throughout this room. Goddamn. That was probably one of the best clapbacks I think I've ever seen in a debate before, because it was simple, it was straight to the point, and really it left Ron DeSantis in this position to where he couldn't actually grapple with any specific assertions that Andrew Gillum brought to his attention. He just made a statement. Look, a hurt dog is going to holler. What do you say to that? How do you even begin to formulate a response to something like that? And when it comes to the question of whether or not Ron DeSantis is racist, that's more tricky, because if you just call him a racist, he could simply say, no, I'm not a racist. He can deny it. But this is when Andrew Gillum came in with a really powerful response. And in my opinion, he just stole the show right here. He said, no, I'm not calling Mr. DeSantis a racist. I'm simply saying the racists believe he's a racist. There is absolutely no coming back from that. You're done. That was a knockout. Put yourself in Ron DeSantis' shoes. In the event that was said to you, how do you respond? Take a moment to think about it. There's really nothing you can say. He was backed into a corner, and that was the knockout punch from Andrew Gillum. Now, I'm going to play the clip for you, that last part, one more time, because I want you to pay attention to Ron DeSantis. Not Andrew Gillum. I mean, focus on what he's saying, sure, but focus on what Ron DeSantis does when Andrew Gillum says this. You're going to notice something really interesting.
Now, I'm not calling Mr. DeSantis a racist. I'm simply saying the racists believe he's a racist.
Mr. DeSantis, if I would ask.
So what you saw right there was Andrew Gillum leaving Ron DeSantis utterly speechless. And for good reason. How do you come back from that? I mean, sure, maybe throughout the course of, a few weeks you can craft a response, but this was right then and there. It was at the debate. There was no way to rebound from that, and it was essentially a death blow in that debate. It secured Andrew Gillum's victory in that debate. So understand, I want you to separate Andrew Gillum from the policy, from the partisanship. Just think of him as an apolitical figure and examine his debate performance in a vacuum. He's got to be one of the best. I've covered a lot of debates on this program, and I don't think I've ever seen someone be able to corner their opponent in such an effective manner to where they're left speechless after an attack and they have no way of responding. That's exactly how you do it. And Democratic Party strategists, going to 2020, Bernie Sanders people, if they want to win, they need to examine Andrew Gillum or get some pointers from him, because this is exactly how you debate with Republicans when they're willing to play loose with the facts, when they're willing to be disingenuous and obfuscate, and it's really difficult to pin them down on anything because they're willing to lie. You reframe it so that way they can't get out of the corner that you back them into. Over and over again, Ron DeSantis tried to flip it on Andrew Gillum, and those blows they don't land. Those punches do not land. So this is really fascinating. I don't think I've ever been as captivated by debates as I've been by these debates between these two, because Andrew Gillum is he absolutely is a monster, and debate-wise, he's one of the best. Credit where it's due. I may not agree with him on everything and may be disappointed with him for good reason, but when it comes to debating, you've got to applaud him and really try to extrapolate as much as you can in terms of strategy out of this, because he has a winning technique that Democrats got to emulate when going up against Republicans.
Support this podcast by becoming a patron at patreon.com/Humanist Report.